The Red Planet is a destination for scientific discovery. It's a driver of technologies that will help humans here on Earth, but also enable us to travel and explore. It will strengthen our nation's capabilities, and it will inspire a whole generation that is eager to put its own mark and build on what we have done and will achieve together. Humans visiting Mars in person, I believe, will truly change civilization. So Mars is calling us. Let's answer the call.
Welcome to the 2022 Humans to Mars Summit. We're so excited to be back. We have met so many people virtually and that we built up strong relationships with over the last few years, and we're just meeting for the first time in person here.
One of the most exciting and affirming things is that I am hearing people say that they love this conference of ours, that they love the summit, they love the networking, they love the spirit in which we want to introduce all of humanity to access to space, that Mars is for everybody.
Touched on this as well, the importance of the collaborative nature of Artemis. The collaboration continues to grow, right?
It has been a tremendous pleasure for many years now for me to come here to Washington to host the webcast for the Humans to Mars Summit from Explore Mars. Last break of the day here on day one of the 2022 Humans to Mars Summit in Washington, D.C. I described it on stage as a collection of Martian all-stars, which is absolutely the case. It is such an honor to be in this group and, actually be able to talk to them about the passion that we all share for the Red Planet.
I think the key to getting humans to Mars in the 2030s is really the motivation. We have a lot of the technology that we need. We know the science questions that we need to answer to have a successful mission. And so it's really about committing and saying we want to do this, and this is the timeline on which we want to do it.
I would say the biggest thing we need to do is to understand where the ice deposits are at Mars. And I think there's a growing awareness that when humans go, a really tremendous use of them is to operate drills, potentially even coring drills, to access into it, because the insight will give us into the climate history of Mars and into the potential for biology there is considered to be incredible. And the sooner we get into the subsurface ice, the faster we're going to be able to actually produce propellant at Mars.
We definitely have the capability to get to Mars, and I think the only thing standing in our way right now is really focusing on that and the partnerships, the cooperation. Together we can get there.
3D printing on the moon versus Mars will likely leverage different material and deposition technologies. The properties of the regolith on the moon and Mars are analogous. They're a little bit analogous, particularly if we're talking about basalt. The methodology that we're taking for lunar construction, we're looking at heat-based methods, so things like laser sintering, furnace melting. On Mars, we have, I believe, a wider range of possibilities to consider, even though those technologies, the heat-based methods, could still work.
I hope the future includes lots of exploration missions. I hope we discover ice. I hope we can figure out how to mine that ice and turn it into propellant for astronauts to come back. Now, that future, there's some steps that have to happen. First, we're going to prove all those technologies at the moon with the Artemis program. My hope is that maybe in my lifetime, we have humans that live and work on Mars for years at a time.
One thing that I wish more people knew about the industry is how diverse the opportunities are. A lot of times looking in from the outside, a lot of people assume that space is for engineers or scientists or a few select group of astronauts. But like as American teacher and NASA astronaut Krista McAuliffe once said, it's our new frontier out there and everybody needs to know about space. So I think it's so important to know it's not just for scientists and engineers or STEM majors. It's also for the artists, the writers, the journalists, the policymakers, and really anyone. Space is like its own little world. Every single career is necessary. So I wish people would start to understand how large and expansive the industry really is.
The saying is it's rocket science. Yes, it is. But it is very approachable. I think when people get beyond the technology, people get beyond what it takes to make it happen, the daily life, what's required to keep humans safe, is a lot like what we have on Earth. Things that seem very hard are often kept at arm's length. And I think as people understand more and realize, yes, it's hard, but it's very approachable, I think they'll want to welcome it and they'll want to take part in it.
How research in space is improving their life on Earth. That's the one thing that I wish we did a better job in communicating to all of the public. And I mentioned Mike Griffin's example of a day without space. It's one of my favorite examples. When you stop to think about it, how much space is intertwined in our daily lives and how a day without space would be a total global disruption. It really brings home how much space is involved in our daily lives and how much it makes it better.
One thing that I want people to know about the space industry is that we collectively have to strive for a Jedi space, a just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive space if we're really going to make space for everyone. And so I think it's important that we hold the companies that are developing the technology and the people who are selecting the not only just the astronauts but the Mars-nauts to this idea of a Jedi space and how we are going to successfully create that for our future.
I think the most exciting thing about the Humans to Mars Summit is getting to meet other people that are just as passionate about wanting to continue Mars exploration, both from robotic missions and eventually sending humans. And that is just a great energy to feed off of as a Mars scientist, to be around other people that want that just as much.
I think it's so important to involve young students in conversations like these at this convention today. It's a disservice to the aerospace industry if we don't involve the students who will be leading the aerospace industry in a few years and are the ones who will be going to Mars and exploring beyond. And so they will be defining what our future is like. So it's important to involve them in conferences like these that are so powerful, but also just being open on social media. If someone reaches out with a question, I think just taking a moment to answer how you were able to, as a young student, track this industry could go a long way.
Organizations like Explore Mars really develop synergy around key ideas having to do with human health, habitation systems, such as we've explored today, the needs that we have for transporting people to Mars, transporting systems to Mars. And I really love that it's a mix of not only industry leaders, but also academics and those in research coming together to explore these ideas in a very collective forum and sort of garnering enthusiasm and excitement for what the future might hold.
I mean, going to Mars is going to be a collective endeavor, and so it's so crucial that we begin to think early about all the different facets and possible challenges we're going to encounter as we start to really make the Mars generation something that's viable and real. So that's why these events are just so important. All of us are, in our own personal lives, are working towards this mission of making humanity's presence on Mars a real thing, but we can't do it alone. We have to come together to make it possible.
Mars is, again, about bringing about a better society. Because let's face it, when we are there on Mars, even if we be with 200 people, like just recently someone proposed, it still means that it's a really tiny group of humans that need each other. And I believe that, we will have the opportunity to create a better society with better rules of treating each other. Because, if we're 200 people, we still need some kind of government, not as big as a government of a big country, but still, 200 people is already too many to just simply go like, everyone can fend for themselves and every problem will solve itself, because it won't. And for doing that, I do believe that then the Martians, I call them the Martians because they'll be living on Mars, will show the rest of humanity on Earth that it can be done.
I want to say we want to be here at Explore Mars and at the Human to Mars Summit, a place where humanity takes central place. Space is for everybody. Thank you so much.